Welcome to Fly Tying with Whiting, where each month we'll bring you a fly pattern tied by one of our experts using whiting fly tying feathers. Whiting has a diverse line of feathers that serve many purposes in fly tying. And our intent here is to help you understand some of the many uses for whiting fly tying feathers. Whiting genetic fly tying feathers can help you tie better flies and be more successful out fly fishing. For this month's pattern, I'm going to tie a blood midge. Now, most of us are fishing chironomids in a lot of our area lakes early season, but those chironomids ultimately hatch and become a midge that rides on the surface of the water. Often, if you've got a hatch going on, you'll have trout feeding on them. So I like to use this pattern during a blood midge hatch. It's an old pattern that I picked up years ago at California's Davis Lake, which was very well known for its blood midge hatch. But here in Central Oregon, we have a lot of blood midges on Crane Prairie and other places, and so this is an excellent pattern to dry fly fish the midge hatch. So let's review the materials for this pattern. I'll cover them one by one to give you an idea of why I chose each. For a hook, I'm going to use a Firehole 419 in size 14. This is a competition barbless hook used for dry flies. For thread, I'm using a 6/0 Danville's flat waxed in an olive brown. For the abdomen on this fly, I'm going to use dyed orange strung marabou. For the rib, I'm going to use copper wire. This is more for strength of the fly than it is for ribbing, as the marabou is fairly delicate and will get torn up in trout teeth. For the wing, I'm using deer hair. For the thorax, I'm going to use a peacock barb off the tail feather. And finally, for the hackle, I'm using a pro-grade whiting dry fly saddle. And this is a unique variant with colors that range from tan to kind of a brown dun. One I really like a lot for this pattern. So let's get started tying this pattern. I'm going to tie on my thread right at the 2/3 point of the hook and wind it back to the tail set position. I'm going to tie in my marabou right at the tail set position with about 2 or 3 wraps of thread. Then I'll tie in my copper wire to rib the marabou. So from here, I'm going to wind the abdomen using the marabou fibers, and I'll wind those forward and tie that off. I kind of weave it forward to make sure that they don't get matted down as I tie them. Once I've clipped off the excess, I'll go ahead and follow that up by weaving the rib through the marabou to add that strength to the abdomen of this pattern. So I've selected out a small clump of deer hair, and I'm going to clean all the under fur very well, and then I'm going to go ahead and stack that in my stacker. So now I'm going to advance my thread to the eye of the hook, and I'm going to tie the wing on with the tips facing forward, and then I'll tie over the butts back to the abdomen, and I'll clip off the butts of the deer hair, leaving them overhanging the beginning of the abdomen. So next, I'm going to tie in my peacock curl to wind over the thorax area. And I'm also going to tie in my whiting dry fly saddle at the same time. So now let me wind the peacock curl forward. I've got the shiny side facing backward and the dull side facing forward so that I can get the maximum density out of this peacock curl. And I'll tie that off and clip off the excess. So now I'll follow that up and wind my whiting dry fly saddle through that thorax area with about 4 wraps or so. And then I can tie that off and clip off the excess. So now I'll whip finish it a couple of times in front of the wing at the head position and clip off my thread. So now let me rotate the fly in the vise so you can see all sides of this blood midge. When you're fishing it, it's important to go ahead and goop up the hackle and the wing, but leave the marabou untouched. You want that marabou to sink into the surface film and actually penetrate the water column so that trout can easily see it. So that has been your Fly Tying with Whiting program for this month. I hope you'll give the blood midge a try. It's a good pattern in the right situation, and it's important to have a few of these in your box as we get into the heart of midge season on our area lakes. If you like what you see, please subscribe to this page. Thanks for watching.